So pumped to get Kel'Thuzad into the Nexus. But you know who's more pumped about it than I am?
Me.
This guy.
Me. Yep, definitely me. I wasn't even going to let you throw out an answer. I was just ready to steal that. It's definitely me. I only got 2 games on them, but man, they were fun games.
Were they?
You know, I apologize that you were on the other side of the battlefield, okay? I just hit my chain, I hit my snare, and I blew that dude right up every time.
I did juke you with a good timeout, though.
Yeah, you did. I kind of got bodied.
Well, nobody's really getting bodied too much here. We've got a pretty close series between Superstars and Lag Force so far. Let's see where we're going for game number 3, and that is Infernal Shrines.
I have no idea to give an advantage to either team here. You know, at this point, I feel like it's just whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I don't feel like there's been enough consistency from either side in terms of strengths, map direction at any point. And
That's
the
very
fact,
zen of you.
You know, and the fact that it's a little bit of yin-yang kind of deal here, right here. It's just a full balance. Superstars winning on the opposite side. Lag Force winning on the Tomb of the Spider Queen.
Exactly.
It's just, I hope that this is going to be at least an offensive game from both sides. I feel like there's been rather slow play compared to some of the other teams we've had in Part 2 kickoff, but that's really the only thing I desire.
Think we'll get another Kerrigan?
I hope so. I don't think that's likely. I mean, you brought it up right before we saw the Kerrigan. It's like, well, we have Equinox, so it's like an option, right? There's not too many on the other side of either one of these teams, I feel like, that stands out.
Yeah, especially with both of the melee players being kind of new to their roles, Airho and B-Kid. I think it's fairly likely that we might see a Malthael here, unless he gets banned out from one of the two. Seems like when both of them are flexing off of a secondary warrior to a melee assassin, that feels like that's the first place that they're going.
It makes a lot of sense, though, in terms of like the difficulty to work with, especially on that side roll, because if you don't go into the Malthael, you're probably going in a melee assassin, and that it changes how all team fights even work, right? You suddenly aren't working with the traditional double warrior that has kind of risen to power of late, and it makes it to where your initiations are a lot higher risk, but if you are successful on the first kill, the next one's going to come that much quicker.
Well, game number 3 is about to begin, starting with the draft on Infernal Shrines Superstars, with first pick after losing the last game on Tomb of the Spider Queen.
Tassadar is almost inevitably going to be removed. Genji's a hero that has dropped a lot in power, but the Abathur removal for Superstars is something I enjoy, the fact that they're willing to take that away. Not only have we seen, as we talked about in Game 1, Lag Forces felt more comfortable picking themselves up the Abathur, but it's a slow map. It is one where Abathur very much will feel comfortable hanging out, getting that XP.
And it puts Lag Force in somewhat of a difficult position. They have to choose which is scarier to give to their opponents, Ariel for a potential double support, or even just Ariel battery composition, or is it Tassadar and what he can do, what he can enable, the wave clear, the shrine clear that he brings to a team. They're hovering the Ariel, but it's quite a consideration about who to ban here.
If double support was more prone to be played in North America, I feel like I'd be like Ariel all day, every day, but because there does seem to be that kind of drop-off into it, I kind of like the TAS a bit more, you know, if Lag Force was going in that direction, just because it seems more probable. Ariel has been removed because double supporting was so prominent. I mean, she's an amazing hero on her own, but she very much rises to first pick, first ban solely off that concept. So with how uncommon it's been in NA, it is rather surprising to see it be such a staple.
Lag Force has shown that they still like to play Genji, even when some other teams have kind of fallen off with them. So there is maybe an Uther Genji here.
If they go into an Uther Genji, I hope to see Superstars translate over to a late Sonya. I think that actually would be really nice with the Tassadar, the Sonya synergy, but then the Genji kind of soft counter that you can get with Sonya and the pressure outwards. Maybe move into a Arthas.
Medivh every game this series so far.
It is pretty crazy to think about, but
is
to be honest, I am. What do you mean, Gilly? The thing that we've been waiting forever to happen when everybody plays Medivh
that
only.
That is the thing that I was mentioning, yes.
It's only a matter of time. It's just when. When does Medivh become the only character every team plays? I don't know if we're there yet, but I think we're starting to realize that it might be a thing. Because I mean, even look at Lag Force, you could see in the last game they did a very good job with some of the portal back and forth that they were doing. I mean, they have very much been practicing the hero, and it showed. I didn't have a single negative thing to say, and
he was amazing.
I rarely say that about Medivh players. So
he finished Master's Touch very early on too.
It was very impressive. I feel like that's got to give a big upper hand here towards Lag Force into this draft, and probably part of the reason we see Superstars considering this 2-3 so heavily here. With only 8 seconds remaining. I assume we're going to get the melee. So an Uther with the priority into Ariel and Rhaegar on the other side. It makes sense to grab that before you get to the secondary ban. But the Lunara that high up, again, it's not that it's out of place, but it does kind of go like this doesn't necessarily add up. I'm hoping that there's a synergy somewhere else because it seems rare to pick that high without an Ariel that's already been taken away and without any melee assassin. If anything, it screams to me, I really want Illidan. So if I was Lag Force, I'd probably just flat ban it because you pick that Lunara so out of place, I have to be suspicious.
Yeah, you have to look for who is going to be the assassin after the Lunara poisons, who is going to need conceivably the Divine Shield, who will benefit from Tassidar's lifesteal from his plasma shields, and all signs do point to Illidan. There's some other picks in there that could work the same. Sonya does work well in the shrines as a possibility, but it does scream that there's something that they want to pair along with that in a melee role. There it is.
If I wasn't going to ban the Illidan, the only thing that otherwise would have come to mind is the Garrosh, because he has been a problem. I wouldn't even hate if we actually see Lag Force pick it up, but they haven't played it quite yet, and I'm not... I mean, that last game was such a dominant performance, so why should we expect that they're going to suddenly pick it up for themselves? If Superstars gets it, though, they do have a reasonable amount of damage and follow-up. They have the Tassadar. We talked about the effective health that can provide. Uther is another one with good follow-up. Lunara's not terrible when it comes to damage output and getting that kill potential. You want a little bit more burst, a little bit more crowd control. Not what I expected banned out, though. A Zagara? I mean, I know Lag Force is willing to play the Zagara on Braxis, but do we actually think it's that prominent within their roster to bust out Zag on any map she has a slot?
There have been a lot of picks and bans in this series that have made me wonder if these two have scribbed each other
quite
somewhat.
A bit. Yeah. It's so weird how you can almost experience that just by watching the order pick. Like if you stare at enough drafts and actually look at them long enough, it's just like this isn't something they've done almost ever.
It's like a 1 + 1 = 3. Wait a second.
I'm on to you, boys. Whatever that is. Oh, man, the input-output of that was just not the norm of what you'd expect. But with the Lag Force in their draft, with the Medivh, there comes the Malthael you were talking about before.
Yeah, Force of Will is going to be nice with him to make sure they can get a lot out of Tormented Souls.
And there's the Greymane coming in. Lag Force has a scary comp.
Well,
they've got a really good draft.
I want to pick Garrosh into that now. I think we see maybe a different warrior for Superstars.
I was just going to say that, once the Malthael came online, that suddenly goes, well, because we were talking about if you don't ban the Illidan, you ban out the Garrosh possibly in these circumstances, and now it makes we ban out the Illidan, we make the Garrosh seem desensitized, or not even incentivized in terms of a pick, and more importantly than anything, it's not like the Malthael Greymane are only anti-Garrosh. They're just generally good. The only thing I would say is they're going to struggle maybe locking down a kill, so much so that if Garrosh isn't picked or a must-have reason to go Cursed Bullet, I wouldn't mind if they wouldn't actually go for the throw. You have Greymane, you have Medivh with the Force of Will. I mean, go Wiz and Duelist even, get a little wild with it, because Malthael's going to prep the kills. Somebody's got to lock them down.
Yeah. There's a lot of scariness from a potential wombo of Leyline Seal into Tormented Souls 2. Let Malthael get into position. Chin and Arthas, the final 2 picks for Superstars. Arthas Lunara pairing. You've got Unfair Advantage, a bonus damage on slows when she hits 13. Chin I wasn't expecting, but kind of the same thing if he goes into the constant build of Donkey Kong.
What solo warrior does Lag Force want to choose under these circumstances then? Murden wouldn't be too bad. I feel like I'm missing something.
Love all the control that Superstars are trying to get against Medivh too. They have Lunara, the slows that she can have, the way that Poison interacts with Force of Will, but then you also have the slows of trying to control and make sure that people can't get to the portals and where that Medivh has set them down. We'll have to be very patient with the portals. especially before 13.
If they Tyrael, I would be so scared for for Superstars. Like, I feel like Tyrael in this comp is the one thing where I go, okay, how do you actually deal with it? Because once you see the Chen Arthas with the sustained Deathball comp, the Lunara is going to be a problem. They have a reasonable team fight, but if you sank that, get an easy turn, which Arthas Chen can't interrupt, you're like, okay, you want to fight? Let's go, boys. It's an easy turn, one shot, one kill. But the Muradin, I talked about it. It makes sense. It's safer. It's become more prominent in North America, which is why I thought even without the Garrosh, we would see teams do it. It's funny how that works. Even though there isn't the reason why that character is becoming more popular, it's more prone to being picked when it's semi-justifiable and maybe in the past would have been ignored. The only reason here is just for the Skullcracker to deal with the Chen brewing up the front line. Arthas also really doesn't like to be auto-attack debuff or stunned temporarily when you're spamming out those heals. At the end of the day, though, Superstars did take a pretty big risk with that Chen.
What do you think then? Do you give the edge to Lag Force with their composition?
I'd say pretty large. Unless Zuna somehow makes huge mistakes, and especially with how iDream looked on a risky hero like Medivh and making it look so good, I'm suddenly like, huge lead there. But then the Muradin was the only thing that I was kind of like, But it's not even like I was like, it's poor. It was just, did it just jump out at us as like, oh, this is done, like the Tyrael might have? No. And so I really do think Zunas, because his Muradin was amazing in the last game.
It was.
All these heroes on the side of Lag Force, they played very, very thoroughly throughout the last one.
Let's get into it. Lag Force and Superstars are currently tied 1-1 as we head into game number 3 on Infernal Shrines. We'll see you there.
But if we're holding our conspiracy theory through, Superstars wins this game because Lag Force was the one who took us to it. So, you know, we got to hold those.
You have had so many conspiracy theories
Today.
in this match.
Have I?
I don't even know which one. Are you talking about Yoda's shot calling because he used to be on roll 20 level of Infernal Shrines? Or are you doing that because there's a conspiracy theory that you always win on your opponent's maps?
It was on your opponent's maps. That wasn't a Yoda one, but, you know. Okay, that's not just one screen. Sorry. Was that for everybody? I don't know. The screen I was looking at was all kinds of buggy there, so I was trying to be like, is everybody at home seeing these things? When it comes to talents, nobody's gotten wild. Everybody kicking to the norm. We do, one thing I do want to say, when we've been talking about Wolfheart, the Worgen build, when we're going which builds on Greymane, one map that genuinely just kind of yells, I want to go cocktail build in most cases, unless, again, in this game, you can still go into cocktail, but I guess still even go for the throw. That's not even a counter argument. Just because of the Shrine. It's very good at getting AoE poke. It not only gives you some of those skeleton defenders, the biggest thing is it's pretty much a free stack onto that quest to make sure you get as much damage as possible. It just hurts to hang out around those shrines.
It's a 2-1-2 with Medivh initially, but everybody's collapsing now that Muradin and Malthael were able to clear out top. Does Superstars get back in time? Not too much damage so far.
One thing we have to consider too with this game, hold on a minute here, Daihu with the Howling Blast doesn't gain anything here, is B-Kit on Malthael. You talked about how with these kind of learning anew of the side rolls that most of the teams seem to be transitioning into the Malthael, but his Malthael specifically
is really good.
Stood out the most. Urho with a brilliant juke, but at the end of the day, too far out. Lag Force find themselves the very first kill. But, you know, at least Superstars is gaining something elsewhere. Rebuttaling up on top, finding themselves that B-Kit.
Yeah, you know what's really funny, too, is those are completely opposite lanes, so both are going to have the opportunity to try to deny some experience. We've got Greymane in the bottom doing that. Arthas up in the top. The Shrine will be activating in mid in a few. And with Lagaf finding Hosty, forcing him to dimensional shift out. It'll be Superstars who gets onto the point faster with their heroes. So Lag Force collapsing. We'll see how much Superstars gets, skeletal defenders-wise, before Lag Force can get in, and if they are forced to make some sort of risky play, risky fight. Looks like they got here fairly quickly.
With that 9 advantage here, we have to keep track of the Rhaegar, who's going to pretty much make at least 2 members, Rhaegar and whatever Lightning Bond target they end up choosing. Very good at getting that threat out, so it's even on the skeletal defenders. Zuna and friends looking to make things happen. B-Kid under a lot of pressure, though, getting a lot of damage with the passive. The portal is down, the Force of Will laid, but Urho there with that barrel, he gets himself a kill. They're not done yet, though. They're in the chase. Big impact, able to make it out, but barely by the skin of his teeth. Now Superstars, they focus on to this Punisher.
A lot of the members of Lag Force dove right on top of Arthas, and Daihu for a long time was just taking through Frozen Tempest on members while Lunara could shell out the poison damage. That gets even more so with Splintered Spirit 7, but it was enough to whittle down the health, and there was only one Force of Will. They got onto B-Kid, he went through the portal, but Airho, knowing that at some point he was going to want to go through that and watching when he could set him to flames and bring him down.
Superstars now, as they conclude their very first Punisher, we'll see how much they're able to pick up. Typically, the first Punisher, you assume it's a front wall, but you can get more depending on your laning compositions. Lunara, Tazadar, Uther, it's probably going to be a front wall. I doubt we'll see anything too wild there. iDream, though, hovering up above, and that's a 5-man collapse from the members of Lag Force. There was for a second, I thought they might try and go for that flank Medivh portal and get some kind of punishment onto this front wall pressure, but just slow, patient play for both sides.
Yeah, it seems they just wanted to make sure they were responding appropriately. If a lot more of Superstars were there to push in and threaten the fort, not doing so, Lag spread back out. They don't want to get behind inexperience. This does feel like a Lag Force that is a lot more concerned with the experience game. We noticed that in their first series. They nearly lose Zuna. The poison's ticking down. He's out.
Icona with a brilliant heal there.
Force of Will.
Keeping Urho alive. Tomster taking the portal away. Look at B-Kid, though. He sees so many low health pools. He really wants to secure a kill. Stormbolt does connect onto Iacona. The shielding is there. The self-heal as well. If Iacona goes down, he can heal everyone up and turn this around, and that's what they're going to do. Urho is going to find himself the first kill. Yoda slowing down B-Kid, slowing down Tomster and Zuna. How many more can Superstars get?
He already has Dwarf Toss down, and he's still within range. Has the vision thanks to Natural Perspective at 1. Poison.
Tomster get the heal.
Lower and lower, he has the self-heal. Force of Will was there. He just had to make sure that he was the one to be the last one out, the last one taking the damage because he could run back to the aid of his team. So 1-1 trade as both teams are brawling. But as I was saying, Lag Force has been a lot more focused in making sure that they're keeping up in the rotations, making sure that they're keeping up with all of the lanes soaked. And it was something that has been an issue for them for a long time in the past. And they did a great job with that versus Space Station, and they're continuing to do that versus Superstars, and that's going to be key because Superstars is a team that is so map-focused. I
think it's a really fun thing to kind of watch happen because this is not the only team we've seen make that kind of transition. I mean, to be frank, I've talked about it a lot. It feels like the entire Chinese region kind of had that transition where they realized there is a specific hole in the philosophy and ideology that they have an approach to the game. And then in order to make up for it, they go all the way to the other end of the spectrum. And it does feel like Lag Force, they found within reason here a bit of concern towards it, but you can still tell. Sometimes they're like maybe overreacting to the soak, and then other times they're like, no, this is the fight, and then they overcommit to that. They are very much trying to figure out when to make those kind of transitions. And, you know, it's paying off. They are blatantly getting better. I mean, the fact that this is 1-1 in the series alone, and what they made happen in the first day of week number 1 was very impressive so far. Yeah, even the way they rotated in and then seeing that not everyone from Superstars was committed very quick to say, this isn't our time, we need to just get back in the lanes and make sure we're keeping up with the soak. And that's benefited them a lot. They're fairly keeping up. They are somewhat behind Superstars as Superstars approach heroic abilities, and that's limiting them from being able to fully get onto the point. But with B-Kid coming in, they're hoping that they can make the fight happen before Superstars get heroic abilities. They absolutely need it, because not only are they worried about heroic abilities, they're not winning on the race on the Skeleton Defenders. They're down an entire 10 on that. A lot of poke, though, went into Yoda. Looks like he's going to back out, find himself a tap. Now giving Lag Force a couple of members here can move up and restore the balance. But it's all about 10. Lag Force has to force this. It's not Superstars' fight to force. It is very much Lag Force. Yeah, there was such a deficit in Skeletal Defenders. The fight is the only way that they get back into this now with Superstars so close to heroic abilities. This is all or nothing for Lag Force. Unless they are going to back out right now, all this time a Mercenary camp pushing in the mid too. This is exactly what we were talking about. When they commit, when they don't. This is a very common trend that they displayed at part number 1 in phase number 2. They end up walking away, testing the waters until the heroics are picked up by Superstars, and when that happens, completely forfeiting the rest of the Punisher. So it makes sense. You understand they were hoping that they could get some kills, try to even things out, and then get the Punisher that way. But in not getting them, and in sort of waffling around, in the good zoning from the members of Superstars now, they weren't able to push out in other lanes, they weren't able to push down towers somewhere, and all of Superstars is charging in along with this Punisher. Superstars holding on to the heroic there for Iacona, but Iacona also just adores holding on to talents no matter what.
Yeah, he held on to Aegis last game, or the game before.
I'm trying to figure out if there is a realistic argument into the Divine Storm coming out this game, and there is. I think there's a little bit of one. With the portal play, Divine Storm is one of the best ways to stop any kind of portal into 5-man Deathball. It also is pretty effective into making sure you can all-in focus kill down the Malthael during Tormented Souls if you want to do so, or before even that kind of goes off. And he goes with it. He's going to commit to the Divine Storm.
Yeah, not an Illidan as a Divine Shield target. You've got Chen and Arthas, who both have great self-sustain between Storm, Earth, and Fire and Army of the Dead. And the fact that they're double warriors. You've got Tassadar to help out with the heals when Uther's cooldowns are down. And Lunara has Leaping Strike with her own mobility. So in this case, not only being able to make some plays around portals, but make sure that he's there for a disengage if there's a Leyline Seal, to stop Tormented Souls B-Kid from getting onto the back line. There's a lot of usage there for Divine Storm for Superstars.
There very much is. And I'm going to be keeping track on whether or not it really kind of gets that, because I feel like this is one of those cases where I feel like there's an equally reasonable argument to both halves. But the execution of the Divine Storm is significantly more difficult than the Divine Shield. Just because when you have the Arthas and the Chen, they're diving the backline, they're going to receive a lot of pressure. Tassadar and Lunara are going to do their best to be able to hold their own, but eventually there will be a portal, there will be a death ball that goes out and all-ins onto the backline, and Lunara has got to be able to be alive during that process. Arthas and Chen will wreak havoc on the backline. Hold on a minute, Toms are caught out. Beautiful ley line. I mean, iDream's Medivh, dude, is disgusting.
Yes. Is he already done? He's very close to being done with Master's Touch this game, too. Which means he could be even more disgusting. Right up in the faces of Superstars. But no Leyline Seal now for the Shrine. Does that affect how Lag F approach this next Shrine phase?
Most likely. Cause them to be more slow and honestly maybe even ignore it being down that ley line at the top of it. Seems like that seems to be the general consensus. Zuna with a big flank, though, goes right on in. Daihu's going to be the focus target. That is just in Arthas. Tormented Souls is going to be dropped, so getting a lot of damage out there. And Arthas, the shielding, the healing, and he is keeping himself alive. Zuna causing havoc onto the backline. Ancestral does land onto Big Impact. Beautiful Force of Will. Divine Storm and B-Kid drops on the side of Lagaf.
The 1-1 as Tomster and Zuna run away. Big E being slowed down, and the chase from Araho continues. Yoda trying to get into position to pair and combo with that Leaping Strike. Hits Zuna, gets a Force of Will, diving onto the portal, but the rest of Superstars are there to catch him and make sure that there is no escape. Yoda dives way far in. They get him a deep kill. Thankfully for iDream, he finished Master's Touch.
Very thankfully for iDream.
Yeah.
Leyline Seal is coming back online too. It was interesting to see Lag Force be willing to try and take that initiation, but I think what happened is, like, at first glance they were like, you know, if it works out really well, we'll just commit. And then they did, and we're like, oh, it turns out our disengage is not as effective as we were hoping to. Chen is doing a very good job in chasing all the members down. We have the Leaping Strike on the Lunara instead of the Thornwood Vine, so even her mobility sits a bit higher than we traditionally see, and the Eternal Slow that is known as Arthas.
Right, Arthas took so long to die, and a lot was used on that, and they moved. Lag Force was so far in trying to kill him that even though they did finally get the kill, Daihu threw out one final Howling Blast that caught two, giving even more time for Superstars to damage them. And then if you go further than that halfway point, if Lag Force goes in for an engage and it doesn't go well for them, there is almost no hope of disengaging if you don't have Leyline Seal because of the slows of not only Arthas, but even Chen. But they're going to give it another go. B-Kid gets on top of Daihu. He goes down much faster, but Divine Storm follow.
It ends up following, but nobody goes down. The Punisher leaping in, getting the real MVP, forcing the Force of Will out of iDream. Now Punishment going in onto Yoda. He's under so much pressure, and they did not get the kill there with the Divine Storm, unable to save the Lunara, so two members are lost. Hosie's mounted up. Stormbolt connects. He's got one E to make it out here. I don't think he survives.
No, Big E's flanking from the side.
Oh, he didn't get the vision fast enough. There's the Archon Force. Gotta ask if that was even worth, really. That's a 100-second cooldown. Luckily for Superstars, they have the upper hand, so wasting that cooldown is nice because they can manipulate the map still with the 16 talents here. But these fights and how they have played out, they're all over the place. And I'm trying to figure out why they're functioning the way that they are. I feel like a lot of it does come down to the Divine Storm. Hold up a minute here.
We're going to have another fight.
And they're not done, dude. They want to try and force this pre-16.
Right before the 16.
But now the Donkey Kong build, I mean, that thing throws out slow on slow on slow.
Thankfully, there's a portal to disengage, but still within range of Airho to dive back on top of Zuna. Gets the mount up, and Lag F are freed from Superstars. Superstars will take this advantage with 16 and run with it, getting one Mercenary Camp, stealing another from Lag Force.
I feel like when the 16 team fight comes online, Superstars, if they win that next one, it's very likely they'll be successful in this game. But if they struggle in it, I feel like Lag Force is going to try and pull ahead in this game, even though they've been struggling in the first stages. Just looking at how all these fights have gone down, not often is it the case that Lag Force is losing them other than like a very common mistake. Like for instance, the chase onto Arthas, and we saw the Divine Storm and they were able to get a kill that time, but then the next time you saw it was very much run away from this, we can't deal with this. Even when the Divine Storm came out, they don't have enough immediate bursts, I feel like, to blow up that Malthael with the direction that they went into the talents. And so I think that the first one, Superstars was able to look a little bit better due to the poor commitment of resources, even though, remember, Lag Force was down a talent tier when they chose that last fight. I feel like this one, Lag Force is actually going to come out on top if Superstars doesn't play it properly, because the Divine Storm has to net a kill, or the long sustained fight should go over to the Medivh Malthael composition.
Yeah, especially if the combo and setup with Leyline Seal and Tormented Souls makes it so that they don't have that extra lockdown time. Because even though Benediction is here for Uther, if they can't make sure to bring down B-Kid immediately, he will be a problem, especially with a lot of members of Superstars being in close quarters with so many melee.
We'll find out. 12 Skeletal Defenders available for Lag Force. As you see, Urho already applying a lot of pressure in zone. Biggie dropping the Cursed Bullet. That's going to be 25 seconds for that to come back. Might be able to get a secondary rotation. Look at the pressure.
Focus. There's a portal. Storm Earth and Fire has been procced. Tomster gets caught in between the portals. But even with the portal, there's no...
Storm, but the Aegis, or excuse me, the healing coming up from the Ancestral. Suddenly the Tormented Souls is going to turn things around here for the members of Lag Force. Zuna getting the autos, busting out that Skullcracker, but nobody going down.
Tormented Souls was good, but everyone separated pretty well, and there wasn't a way to get the final blow on a kill. Arrow staying alive in the 1v1 between Biggie, diving on top of Tomster. Look how low all the members of Lag Force are. Daihu's still sitting on top of Zuna. Everybody is inches within death. Medivh, 1, 2, 3, 1, 4.
A billion? All of them are going down.
5.
That is going to be a 5-for-nothing white, boys. That is the Ace of Rune, and they're moving on to the keep. This should be a core call immediately after. They do have a task that are double warrior, double support in the long run, so Lunar is the sole damage. It's a little risky, but 20 seconds with nobody up and a Chen to tank it all, I think they got it.
I'm just so amazed. Arrow was such a problem in the back line that, yeah, B-Kid had a money Tormented Souls, but then it was done. Then it was over, and everyone could turn around and deal with him with the Uther, all of the stuns there. And then from that point, the area damage was far too much to deal with for Lag Force. They were never going to be able to get away. Just as we said, you can't retreat from that composition, especially once the portal was already down, especially once Leyline Seal was already down. Superstars take the win in Game 3.
Very well done here from Superstars to be able to play out that last team fight. I'm still, like, I feel like there was a huge moment of miscommunication on the side of, you know, Lag F, and I feel like the easiest way to convey that was we were watching the fight and everything's happening, and then you see the scroll, and then Big Impact sitting there auto-attacking a Chen by himself, and then the Chen not only flies out, but nobody turns to the Chen. He throws out the, granted he missed the spells afterwards. I don't even think it would have gotten the kill either way, but there's no world where a Chen should be brewing at 5% of my backline, and my damage is looking at him. Keep in mind, that's about a 60-65% health Greymane. He had no mana, so I can see why you'd be like, I don't want to fight, but he should not be the only guy there. You're either all killing him and the Chen immediately dies, or you all ignore him and be like, we're going to run away, we're not going to deal with this. It just shows that at the very end, there was very little going right for the members of Lag Force.
Yeah, both of the teams wanted to have somebody who could split away and get enough damage on the back line that you would say, look at me, you have to deal with me or I will take somebody out. And in that game, Superstars, or at least just in that fight, Superstars were able to do it better than the members of Lag Force. It was late enough, they got the Punisher, Did they even go for the Punisher? They just go straight for the keep and then the core?
They sidewalled
Yeah,
it.
because they had the full team wipe, 1, 2, 3, 1, 5.
Yeah, exactly. But and then you have the Chen. I mean, it's literally like almost Illidan-esque, right? He has less damage output, but in the end, you know he's going to take 0 health or damage from the cord, from the keeps themselves, as long as you position proper. It's pretty much, and any other comp, it wouldn't have been the end of the game, but for Superstars here, they're doing exactly what they need.
Well, this is the first time that we are seeing Superstars since the break, whereas we've seen everybody else now. Any immediate thoughts? I know they are playing with Daihu, but Daihu seems to be fitting right in with the team.
He does. I mean, for playing with a sub, they're playing amazingly. Like, I feel like that is one thing to already know, right? The fact that this is a sub and that things are going so well for them. And I do feel like I have moments where I'm like, this is a lot better, but they're very inconsistent still. But now it's within one game. Whereas before I could rely on this game, whatever I see for the first 5 minutes is going to exist for all 15. Now it's kind of like, what's happening for the first minute might not be the same thing that's happening at minute 3. And so I feel like it's a little bit harder for me to gauge. When you play like that, I need a lot more time to be able to see who's doing right, because usually it's an individual problem rather than a team problem at that point. But trying to identify things just don't feel right, but they feel better, but they don't. You know what I mean? It's it just feels like they've gotten better. It does feel that way.
Yeah.
And they show small highs of going like, this is an improvement. Look at this. But then another like 5 seconds later where I'm like, what's going on right here in the middle of a game? And it's that clash in one game to have that happen. Usually it's like, well, game 1 looked beautiful. Game 2, what was going on there, boys? And so to be in the same game, I feel like I just need a bit more time.
Well, you'll get at least one more game to be able to see from them. But don't forget, you guys at home can support your favorite teams by cheering in the Twitch chat. We have the global progress so far for how many bits have been cheered in our HGC cheer program. We did it. We broke the 16 million mark. We broke 15 million on Friday. Thank you all so much for all the cheering you've done. We've unlocked the Chaos Lizard. We're well on our way to the Arcane Chaos Lizard. Look at that.
I want the Deadly Chaos Lizard, though. You know? I don't know why. It's unfair because I put that responsibility for everybody at home, but you and I, like all of them, are same. We're in this together. You know what I mean? So guys at home, think about the Deadly Chaos Lizard.
Well, we've got something else to think about.
Okay.
It's the people who have been contributing the most. They've been cheering the most. And that's still Gladman at the top. It's hard to beat Gladman. Thank you all so much for your cheering. We've got mostly the same names. We're still on version 1 of Rambo.
Version 1 of Rambo. We're still waiting to see whether or not Little Helper comes in, pops in Rambo version number 2. If that happens, what happens? You know, does that mean the cheers double down? We're at the 150 mark. Somebody's giving Gladman at least a 50% run for his money. Time will tell. Find out next time on HGC North America.
Next time on HGC. That is... Well, we've got Game 3 done. Superstars now 1 game away.